Leinenkugels has lived through 2 great world wars, Prohibition, the Great Depression, brewery consolidations, and nearly 160 years of changing tastes in the Midwest. Yet the beer that carried the name far beyond Wisconsin did not arrive until 2007. Today we're going to tell the story of that beer, we're going to give it a try, and let you know what we think. Let's dive in.
There's a high-flying bird way up in the sky.
The story here is, how did a small Wisconsin brewery become a summer staple across the country? Now that story actually starts all the way back in 1867. So the Civil War had just ended a few years earlier, Andrew Johnson was president, Nebraska had just become the 37th state, and the United States had agreed to buy Alaska from Russia. In Chippewa Falls, Jacob Leinenkugel, who turned 25 that month, decided, hey, it's my turn to open a brewery. He partnered with a local businessman named John Miller, and together they opened the Spring Brewery. The brewery stood beside an unusually pure spring along Duncan Creek, near what became known as the Big Eddy Springs. Clean water, of course, in any brewing mattered to lager brewing, and Jacob had found a steady source right beside the brewery. He also happened to find himself in the middle of a booming logging town. Chippewa Falls grew around the timber industry and eventually became home to what is described as the largest sawmill in the world. Lumberjacks and mill workers filled the town, and they made natural customers for a local brewery. Good hard day of work in the mill, what's better than crisp lager after that day? In its first year, the brewery made about 400 barrels, which times 30 is about 12,000 gallons. The beer went out by horse and wagon, and Jacob sometimes drove the wagon himself. Now the business grew along with the town. John Miller sold his share in 1883, and Jacob renamed the brewery after himself. So sadly, in 1899, Jacob passed away. His son-in-law, Henry Casper, then took over, followed by Jacob's son, Matthias, in 1907, and his daughter, Susan Leinenkugel Mayer, in 1927. Family lineage. Through each change, the brewery stayed in the family. Like every national beer before it, then came Prohibition. Leinenkugels kept the door open by making near beer, malt tonics, soda water, and soft drinks. So impressively, in 1922, the company actually became the largest soda bottler in the region. The Leinenkugel women guided much of that shift. Now, after Prohibition ended in 1933, literally the best day in the history of humanity, Catherine Leinenkugel and Rose Leinenkugel Casper mortgaged their homes to keep the facilities running and to help bring beer production back. So that decision carried the family business into a very different beer market. In the decades after repeal, national breweries grew larger and the regional breweries vanished one by one. Now, Leinenkugels was smart, and they stayed close to home. Around Wisconsin and the upper Midwest, Leine's was familiar. Farther away, plenty of drinkers had never actually heard of the name. Now skip far ahead to the 1980s, and staying independent had become increasingly difficult. In 1988, after 120 years of family ownership, the Leinenkugel family sold the brewery to the Miller Brewing Company. The sale really upset and worried employees, fans around Chippewa Falls, but Miller actually kept the local brewery open and left the family members involved. It also brought national sales, marketing, distribution, and resources that small regional brewery had never had and could never match. So over time, Leinenkugels began to reach new markets and began experimenting with more seasonal and specialty beers. Then came the summer shandy. So this idea of a summer shandy drew from the European tradition of mixing beer with lemon drink. A popular German story credits Bavarian innkeeper Franz Xaver Kugler with serving the mixture to a crowd of cyclists in 1922 when his beer was low in supply and he had to make do. That drink became known as the Radler, which is a German word for cyclist. So Leinenkugels began working on a new summer seasonal in 2006, and the infamous summer shandy launched in 2007, combining a traditional Weiss beer with a natural lemonade flavor. Now it caught on almost immediately, grew into the brand's first nationally distributed release, and became the best-selling shandy beer in the United States. For a generation of drinkers, summer shandy became the introduction to Leinenkugels. The family remained part of the story long after the sale. 5th and 6th generation Leinenkugels worked in leadership, sales, marketing, events, and the brewery's visitor experience. Small anecdote about our experience, we actually tried to get the shandy for this video, but we couldn't find it because it was sold out. Just earlier this year, in January of 2026, Katie Leinenkugel became the company's president, nearly 159 years after Jacob opened that original spring brewery. Now sadly, by then, the historic site had gone through its biggest change yet. Molson Coors announced that in November of 2024, the large-scale brewing that was taking place at Chippewa Falls would actually come to an end. The main brewery ceased operations in January 17, 2025, and production shifted to the company's larger Milwaukee facility. So that ended large-scale production at the Chippewa Falls Brewery 157 years after it opened. Now, small batch brewing does still continue in town, and the Leinenkugel Lodge remains open, and its pilot brewery does make limited beers on site. So Leinenkugel remains one of the oldest beer names in the country. Its story stretches from 1857 from lumber camps and horse-drawn wagons to lemon beer in coolers across America. There's a good chance that summer shandy is how you first heard the name. Today, though, for this tasting, we do have the original. And I have to tell you, I am really excited to taste this. I actually think it is distributed nationally now. At least when I looked it up, it said that it was distributed nationally. We've never seen it here, and this bottle did come from Wisconsin. All right, so now for the tasting portion of the video. I am really excited. I don't know why. Great history, all-American tail. I just like to try beers that I've really never even thought about or really heard about until now. I know Leinenkugel through the shandy name. I don't believe that it markets itself as an American light lager. I think it markets itself as a American style Pilsner, which for the channel is kind of sick, right? Should be a little bit drier, should be a little bit more bitter, should have more hop character. I've never seen this beer. I've never tried this beer. I've never had this beer. So I'm really excited to try it. I hope that my excitement doesn't end in sadness because I'm excited to try it. All right, so commenting on the design, beautiful off-white label. You guys have heard me say this so many times on the channel. We've got this gold, red, white motif, dark writing there on the bottle. You've got the necker here with the Leinenkugel's word mark, that really nice kind of bold cursive font. It just says original beer here, which is kind of cool. Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Leinenkugels, the Leinenkugel Brewing Company. Yeah, so pretty sparse otherwise. These bottles don't typically have stories like the cans do. It says, it's kind of tough to read, 6 generations of family brewing, born in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. Again, this is marketed by Leinenkugels as an American Pilsner, which is awesome. All right, diving in now for the taste. Nice little twist top for the boy. Here we go. Aggressive little pour into the glass. Yields a 2 to 3 finger head. Really nice effervescence, really great color. Good thick foam. All right, here's a moment of truth. Solid aroma, a little bit of hop character, a little bit of skunkiness, which is kind of weird in the amber bottle. This beer was treated well. It was purchased in Wisconsin, kept cold, brought back to us here at Treehouse. We've kept it cold the entire time. A little bit of earthy hop. Smells kind of crisp, smells kind of dry. I understand that the beer comes in at 4.7% alcohol, which for me is like perfect. The perfect Pilsner for me is somewhere between 4.5 and 5.2%. So by making this 4.7, I feel like it's a Pilsner after my own heart. All right, here we go. It's not as good as I hoped, but it's not bad. It's got a fair amount of fruit character on the flavor. Not a ton, but that super clean lager expression is kind of overshadowed a little bit by an estery, fruity fermentation. Getting like a little bit of apple, a little bit of pear, a little bit of stone fruit. Not a bad thing. A little bit of like caramel malt taste, which again isn't a bad thing. A little bit heavier on the malt, a little bit heavier on the fruity fermentation character than I had hoped for, but rock solid, like pretty good. Wouldn't turn it down. Kind of comes in for me about somewhere in the middle of the historical regional lager aspect of things that we talk about on the channel, maybe slightly above that. Nothing not to like here, but I want it to be S tier, and it's kind of not, which is okay. I'm a fan of Leine's. I think it's cool that they've kept it in the family for as long as they have, even though it's changed hands. I think there's a lot of passionate people about the brand in the Midwest. I think opinions vary, right? We've got people that maybe don't love Leine's, maybe they do. One more kind of a little bit coppery, I would describe it. Not in a bad way. Again, this is a decently above average regional lager. Rock solid Leinenkugel's original. We couldn't find lemon shandy for the tasting. Kinda wanted to try it. Yeah, so that's it. I don't have too much else to say. A lot of fun learning the history. It's cool that they keep this in the family. Really curious to hear what you guys think of the original and then kind of the shandy and this newer line of beers that Leinenkugels has become nationally known for. I'm really curious. It's such a huge help to us to hear from locals who watch these videos to give us your feedback, because you know better than we do about the core history of the way that these beers influence your region. So we love to hear from you guys in the comments. As always, make your suggestions for future videos. Hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss future content. We'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.